Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the second webinar in our series on Microsoft Fabric. My name is 𝗪𝗲𝗄𝗿. I'm the Chief Operations Officer for TrueNorth Group. And to my right, I've got Donald, which is one of our senior consultants. Donald is a data analyst with TrueNorth Group. Just some housekeeping rules. So we will be recording this webinar, and it will be available on our YouTube channel, which we'll be sharing with everybody. So you can obviously share that internally and with the rest of your colleagues. Secondly, if you have any questions, you're welcome to post them in the chat on this Teams meeting. I'll be fielding those questions while Donald is busy doing the presentation as well as the demo, and then at the end of the webinar, we'll leave some time for fielding those questions as well. Thanks, Donald. So just a little bit about TrueNorth. So we're a dynamic group of companies. We specialize in AI-driven solutions, data science, data analytics, as well as software development. We were founded in 2015, and we've got offices in Centurion, Cape Town, George, and we're very excited because we are now opening up an office in the US as well, in Charlotte. So in terms of our engagement model, we've got three models of engagement. First of all, there's an advisory service. So the advisory service engages with exco level members of the team, and it's all around AI adoption, strategies, data strategy, specializing in training as well. So we've got open AI and Power BI training if that's something that you guys require. In terms of our professional services area, this is where the consultants sit, and this is where the data analytics and the software development projects delivered from. We also have a specialist recruitment business. So if there's a need for specialist data skill or software development skill, you guys are welcome to reach out to us and we can assist you there. And then thirdly, we've got a solutions area. Our solutions area has got some pre-built solutions in terms of an accelerated report platform, as well as a profit optimization ecosystem. So we are Microsoft partners in data and AI, as well as in the app and innovation space. So that's one of the reasons why we decided to host this webinar. Donald is going to take us through a few slides, and then he's going to jump into a physical demo on Fabric, specifically Power BI within Fabric. Thanks, Donald.
Okay. Thanks, Archie, and thanks again to everybody that's joined. So to get started, I'm going to go over a few concepts. Some of them already covered as part of this webinar series, just to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting, Donald, but obviously the first webinar was around data engineering.
Yes.
So that was all about getting data into the platform, getting it into your lakehouse architecture. And today's webinar, we're focusing on the Power BI side. So that's, once you've landed the data, you obviously need to visualize that data, build reports from it. That's going to be the kind of main focus for today.
Correct, Archie, thank you. All right, so Fabric. What is Fabric? So this is a unified data platform consisting of a set of different analytical experiences built to work together seamlessly. So as elements of this SaaS platform, we have the following competencies. We have a data factory, data engineering, data science, and data warehousing, real-time intelligence, data activator, and Power BI. So Power BI lets you connect to your data sources, analyze, visualize, and share the insights. So this Fabric comprehensive experience enables us as data professionals to have access to data that is sitting within the Fabric environment and report on that. So as far as storage is concerned, we have one lake, which is a unified data store that is built on top of ADLS Gen 2. So that is what we make use for storage. All right. So as part of the Fabric experience, we have two key components that form a subset of our primary data sources for data modeling and reporting. So the first one is a data lakehouse. So this is a data store for both structured and unstructured data. So as we can see, that is why we have a table section and a file section for the unstructured data. So basically, a lakehouse combines the key benefits of a data lake and a warehouse.
So is the file section where the 𝗪𝗲𝗶 files would be hosted?
So let's say,
So you're landing the data onto what we call a bronze layer,
yeah,
and that's normally in a 𝗪𝗲𝗶 format. So would that be where that's housed?
so you're 100% correct with that. So that can typically be used as the bronze layer. Let's say we're talking about the medallion architecture, right?
Yes.
Because obviously you need your files to sit in some kind of store. It can be CSV, it can be anything, structured, semi-structured, or unstructured, and that would sit in the file section. Then we have the table section where we actually have the tabular data amongst our tables.
Okay.
Yes. All right. Then after the lakehouse, we also have a data warehouse, which is a lake-centric analytical store, but it's built on the relational schema. So that's the difference between a data warehouse and a data lakehouse, because you will see that with the data warehouse, we cannot store our unstructured data. All right. So whenever a lakehouse or a warehouse is provisioned, a semantic model is always attached to that, right? So what is a semantic model? So that is our base model for Power BI reports, which is usually structured as, but not limited to a star schema. So for example, we can have, let's say, sales data, which will be our fact table. Then we slice and dice that by product, by region, by salesperson, by customer, as our descriptive attributes.
So sales would be the fact, and then your attributes would be basically the data on.
100%. That's correct. All right. So different storage modes can be utilized for our semantic models. The first one being the import mode. So with the import mode, we actually cache the data at a specific point in time as a part of the Power BI model. So all interactions that you do with your visualizations are actually against that snapshot of data. All right. So this can be used when there is no real need for near real-time updates. Yes, and that is also ideal for small data sets.
Is the storage that you're referring to now on the Power BI side?
Yes.
So once you decide, okay, I'm going to start building a dashboard, you obviously need to now have storage behind that.
Exactly.
So these are the different modes we're going through.
Yes, so as an example, we're saying like we just mentioned, we have our fact cells in a couple of dimensions. So with import mode, I actually cache all that data as part of the Power BI.
Okay, so it lives within the model.
It lives, so it's a snapshot at a point in time.
Can that be refreshed?
That can be
So
refreshed.
that's not the Power BI port.
Yes.
You can click on the refresh button and it will then refresh what data is in that, correct?
Yes, so you can refresh on schedule, you can refresh on command, you can also even use an API endpoint to kick off a refresh. Yes. Then we also have direct query mode. So with direct query, the actual Power BI engine queries the underlying data source. So this can be ideal, obviously, when you can do transformations upstream and when you have need for near real-time updates. And bit of a challenge with that is there can be a performance trade-off, obviously, because the engine needs to query the underlying data source as you interact with the visualizations. So in some instances, it can be a touch slow.
So there's no data that lives within them in the Power BI report, you're going directly to the source.
100%. All right. So with Fabric, we also now have a new mode, which we call the direct lake model, right? So with direct link, the semantic model directly reads the data from the delta lake, from the delta tables sitting within one lake. Right. So the data is not the data is not loaded into the model, but rather is cached as you interact with the visualization. So this is ideal for large data sets. We're talking tens to hundreds of gigs, and you also get near real-time updates because you're querying the underlying delta tables. All right. So now that we've gone through these concepts, I'm just going to switch over to my Fabric-enabled workspace so that we can look at the reporting workflow based on a provisioned lakehouse that I have sitting in there.
Okay. Right. All right. So Donald's going to switch over to the physical Fabric, Azure Fabric workspace, and he's going to show us what he's built for us there.
Okay, thank you, Archie. So, as we can see, this is my provisioned Fabric-enabled workspace, right? So within the Fabric experience, obviously, because this is Fabric, you have different experiences. So if I just toggle at my bottom left, you can see the list of different experiences within Fabric. So at this point, I'm within the Power BI experience.
Yes.
All right. Okay, so just taking a quick look at my workspace as it is at this point, we can already see that I have a provisioned lakehouse. Then I have a list of data flows, and towards the bottom, I also have a data pipeline, which everything was set up by my data engineer to handle the ETL process, picking up that data from different source files and loading it into the lakehouse.
Okay.
Yes.
That's good. Yeah, that's what we did in the first webinar. So if you guys didn't see that, then I would really suggest that you go and watch that first webinar as well.
100%. Okay. So as I previously mentioned, with this provisioned lakehouse, we can already see there is a semantic model attached to it. So every time you provision a lakehouse or a warehouse, you will always get a which we call the default semantic model linked to that object. All right. So I'm just going to open my lakehouse, and we can already see the data that is sitting within that lakehouse.
Now, what view is this? Is this basically like a this is a data view? Obviously, it shows you a preview of the data of the underlying semantic model.
Yes, so this is basically we have two views. As you can see at top left, so we have the lakehouse view and we have the analytics endpoint view. So the lakehouse view will give you a view of your tables, all the data that is sitting within tables. Then you also have a files section. In this case, it's empty, but basically, if you have semi-structured or unstructured data, it lives within this space.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can simply upload, use notebooks, use data flows to load data into this space.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to navigate from the lakehouse view to the SQL analytics endpoint view. Okay, and bottom left, I have 3 tabs: data, query, and model. So I'm going to go to the model tab. So once you go to the model tab, you have 2 views. You have views of all the tables that are sitting within your lakehouse. Then you have a default semantic model objects view. Right. So if I navigate to this,
There's your star schema essentially.
there is my star scheme. So basically, there is my sales table, and I can also take a look at all the dimensions that I'm using to slice and dice that sales data, right? So what happens is whenever you add any new table to this lakehouse view, it will be added to the default semantic model view, right? But you do have control of that. So if I just go to my settings, Then this last option, default Power BI semantic model, you can toggle this setting on or off. So if this is on, like I mentioned, you add a table, it will be added to the default model. If this is off, then if you add a table, it's not added to the. Then you have to manually manage your semantic model. All right. So we're just going to take a look at that in action.
Just a question, sorry. So where's the relationships created? At what point is that created?
Okay, so what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to bring in an additional table by means of a data flow, right? So I have the data flow already set up. I'm just going to trigger that. It will bring a new table. Then we'll go through the experience of setting relationship.
Great stuff.
Okay. So I'm just going to navigate back to my workspace, and I have a targets data flow that I'm simply going to refresh, and I expect it to bring an additional targets tab. Yeah. So we're just going to have to wait for that to run through.
Yeah, this is obviously a live demo that we're doing. In my experience with live demos, you pray to the demo gods that nothing go wrong, because there's always a chance of something going wrong. This data flow might take 5 seconds when you've tested it, but now suddenly it takes 2 minutes. So yeah, but let's quickly get that targets table in. I'm guessing it's sales targets, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So this will be linked to the salesperson.
Okay.
Looks like that ran through.
Nice.
Okay, just to confirm if it actually ran through, I'm going to navigate back to my lake house.
Yes.
I need to refresh this. I can already see that it brought in your data.
Okay.
Yes. So basically, you trigger the data flow, then it brings the new data. All right. So I'm going to navigate back to my analytics endpoint and to the model view. Default semantic model objects. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to drop this relationship to the reseller, just to show the experience of how to create relationships, right? So I have my reseller table, then I have my sales fact table, and they link on the reseller key. So I expect to get the same table on the other side. There's my reseller key. So to create a relationship, I'm going to drag this and drop it in the reseller key.
And then you specify the type of
relationship. So 3 cardinalities, many to one, one to one, one to many. Cross filter direction single. I'm happy with that. So it's many to one from sales side to reseller. So that's what I expect. And I save that. Okay, so there is my relationship.
Okay.
All right. So you can also define your measures as part of the default semantic model. So if I navigate to the sales table, expand, we can see that there's a couple of measures that I already defined. So I've got sales value, sales volume, cost of sales, number of orders, and a few time intelligence calculations. Sales year to date, month to date, and prior year.
So just for somebody like me that's not a developer, what would be the 15-second explanation of what is a measure?
Okay, so that's a dynamic calculation, right? For example, if we just look at this measure, it's simply calculating the total of my sales.
Okay, so sales value equals the sum of sales
of the sales field within the sales table. Exactly. Then when we use this on a visualization, obviously when we start bringing in our dimensions, there's something called filter context. I bring in my total sales, then I break it down, let's say by salesperson. then it breaks that down based on the relationship to the dimension. So I'm just going to add in one more measure. So I've got my sales year to date. I've got month to date. I'm going to add a quarter to date. Right, so it's more options, new measure. Let's paste this. This is going to be sales quarter to date. Function here with the dates, quarter to date. All right, then you commit.
That function that you're referring to there, that's DAX code, right?
That's DAX. You're right. That's DAX.
We can almost do a whole webinar just on DAX. And that's how deep that
yes.
Area of expertise goes.
All right. So as we can see, we now have sales value quarter to date added to the default semantic model, right? So at this point, we're still only talking about the default semantic model that is attached to the lakehouse. So as it stands, we can already start visualizing based on that model, right? But in some instances, you might need to set up a custom model, right? So how do you do that? Still in the same view, SQL Analytics endpoint view, if I navigate to reporting, you get an option to define a new semantic model. Okay, so I'm just going to click on that. So I'm just going to call this AdventureWorks. It's a semantic model, right? In the same workspace. So it gives you an option to pick the tables that you want as part of this semantic model. So that means if you have a lakehouse where you're following the medallion architecture, for example, you have bronze tables, you have silver tables, you have gold tables. You don't have to throw everything into a semantic model. You can pick only what you need. Right. So let's say, for example, just
you go across. So just scroll up. Can you reference? So can you reference different workspaces?
100%. So you get the option. Where do you want to drop this semantic model based on this this lakehouse? Okay. So I'm just going to use the same workspace that we're working in, and I'll only select a few tables. Let's say sales, date, and region. And confirm. Just have to wait for that to provision.
No problem. So just a reminder, if there's any questions that you want to pose to Donald or myself, you guys are welcome to post it in the chat, and I'll either answer them while Donald's busy, or we'll provision some time at the end of the webinar.
All right. Thank you, Archie. So it looks like that ran successfully. So I'm just going to navigate back to my workspace, right? And I expect to see a new semantic model.
I see that.
Yes, based on the name that we gave it. So this, if I just open this, open data model, I will see the three tables that I selected. Yes, and you can set up your relationships the same way. Yes. So sales to region, we expect that to be on sales territory key. So I'll be dragging this over sales territory key, many to one. And it's one to many actually from region side. Then you save. Okay, perfect. Like that. Then the same applies for date. That's order date to date. This one is many to one. And sales side, let me save. And there's our model.
Okay.
Yes, and you can define measures exactly the same way. I can add measures to my sales table. Okay. Then that then you can also use this as the base for your actual reports. All right. So that's how we set up a custom semantic model. So you can obviously set up as much as needed in your use case.
Okay.
All right. So now that we set up our default semantic model and went through setting up a custom semantic model, the next step would be to design the actual report. Right. So whilst still in the Power BI experience, you go to New, then you go to Report. Right. So these are the options that we have from within Fabric as to what our data source is going to be. So primarily, our data source is always a semantic model, as you can see. But you can also bring in an Excel file or a CSV file.
Okay.
Okay, so in this case, I'm going to choose pick a published semantic model. This bit. All right, there we go. So I'm going to make use of the default semantic model, which is named AdventureWorks, right? And if there was need, we could make use of the custom that we built.
The one we just added.
Exactly. So I'm just going to select this one, and you have an option to auto create report, where it gives you kind of a template. It already starts putting something on the canvas for you, or you can start from scratch. I usually just start from scratch, create a blank report, and it gives you a blank canvas. As we can see, similar to the experience that we have in Power BI Desktop, we have our tables on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
Then if I expand cells, I also expect to see the measures that we defined as part of that model.
Okay.
Yes. So everything on the right is already ready for you to utilize on your report. Right. So I'm just going to build a report. First thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to give that canvas a bit of a background. But I think I need to drop the transparency. Okay, that's fine. Going to add a slicer.
So a slicer is essentially for making a selection on a page, correct?
Yes.
So on a
So
report.
you're right. So usually on the slices, we bring in our dimensions. We want to look at sales data, but I want to look at my sales by region, by salesperson, by product, stuff like that. So we're slicing and dicing our quantitative data. Right. So the first slicer that I'm going to set up is going to be on date, where we're going to select the year. Okay, I'm going to change that to be a drop down. I'm going to make a few visual changes on that. First is background.
Now, this is obviously totally dependent on, when you talk to things like your corporate identities and, your colors that you will see from a marketing department. So this is not necessarily got anything to do with the data side of things. It's purely look and feel right now.
100%, Nachi, 100%. Size. Okay. Copies of this so that I don't have to.
Yeah, because I'm guessing you're going to slice on month and on day.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do here is, okay, we use the first one for here. The second one, I will change this. And let's make it region. Yes, so this will be my region. Okay, perfect. And this one I'll make it look wrong. Okay, got my 3 slices. Just edit text box. This is works cells. All right, you happy with that?
Nice. So there's a title to the report, and you've got your 3 slices in. Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to make use of the card so that we can just have a high level visualization of our KPIs on the report. So I'll just bring in a card. So now I'm going to make use of those measures that we built. So the first card, I want to look at the total sales value. Adjust that size slightly. Go to 80. Okay. Yeah, so like Archie said, all of this is just look and feel. Just look and feel. Okay, with that. I'm also going to make copies of this.
That title's obviously not linked to slicer link.
Yeah, because we haven't made any selection on the slices.
Okay, so just explain that to me quickly. So any visualization on this page will be linked to the slices.
Yes, because our slices are the dimensions. So once I select a region, we expect to see sales for that region.
For that region.
Yes.
So you can't have a total sales on here. And once you change the region, it's a total for that region, obviously.
Clear. All right. So sales value first. Then we're going to look at our cost of sales. So I'm going to make a change here. Cost of sales. Then this is going to be sales volume. Drop this field to use this measure. Then number of orders. So next, I'm going to make use of a line chart, just to take a look at how our sales trend across the financial period.
Yes.
Right.
So this is an actual vision. This is it's obviously a chart you're going to add now.
Yes, 100%. So this is a line chart. Okay, so we're going to look at sales year to date. Then we're also going to we're going to compare that against prior year sales so that we see if we have a dip or an increase in performance across the financial period. So I think let's look at 2019. I have to make a few more changes before that makes sense. So y-axis, title off. Then making use of our data dimension, we're going to slice that across the financial period using the month year like that. It's a few cosmetic changes. Include some markers in there, data labels. Okay, so we can already look at how our year to date compares to our year to date for the previous year.
Absolutely.
Yes. And I'm going to let's use a donut chart. All right, so we are going to look at our sales again, for total sales. Then we're going to break that down by country, right?
Yes. So that gives you your sales value year to date, and it shows by country.
By country, yeah. Sales. A few more cosmetic changes, just so that we have a bit of uniformity across our reporting. Okay, that's fine. All right, so the last visualization that I'm going to use is a matrix, so that we have kind of a detailed view.
That's your detailed view.
Yes. All right, so
is that a grid? So it's basically a grid.
Yeah, so it's grid view. Call that the matrix. Okay, so we're going to look at its sales percent performance first. And also going to bring in the product categories and actual products. We should sit here. That. Okay. Just expand everything. Few cosmetic changes. Check it out. Okay, perfect. So we're going to look at month to date, quarter to date, and year to date. So this level. Okay, so we can see per salesperson in the performance across the different categories. Right.
That's a very nice view now, because you've got basically all the detail of that specific salesperson.
Yes. So I think lastly, I'm just going to add a spark line so that we can see how the sales trend for a specific salesperson. So that would be sales value year to date across the financial year, which is that 8 spark line, few cosmetic changes on that. What's the list? All right, so we can see the trend per category per salesperson. Okay, so everything will be dynamic.
Yes.
Yeah. So that means if I, let's say, for example, if I change my region to Australia,
everything updates to just show that region.
To show you Australia. Even on a group level, I just want to look at Europe. I can only take a look at Europe.
Okay.
Right. So yeah, that's our quick report that we just set up. The next step would be to actually save this in the workspace. So to collapse everything, file, save as in the same workspace. This is going to be AdventureWorks report. Okay, just click on save. Okay, that was quick, that's done. So if I navigate back to the workspace, I will see 𝗪𝗲𝗯𝗶 report, and I can just take a quick look to see if everything is as expected and everything is as expected.
Wonderful.
Right. Then the last step would be to actually expose this to the users, because as best practice, we do not want to give users access to the workspace, right? So we expose this via an app. And to do that, let's create app. You give that a name, or keep that name, use it as a description. Then you add content. This is where you select what you want to be part of that app. Since we only have one report, we'll select that, then we add. All right. Then the last piece is defining the audience.
For security setup.
Exactly. So I'm saying for 𝗪𝗲𝗯𝗶 report, because if you have more than one report, right, you would get them on this list here.
So you can give different people different access.
Exactly. So you can, using this little icon, you can toggle on and off. If I turn that off, that means for this audience, they wouldn't be able to see that report. But in this case, we have one, so that's okay, and it's on. Then you define either your users or your security groups that are supposed to access that report on here. So let's say I have a user named Doug. I will pick that user, publish app, publish. Okay, that looks done. Just need to close a few of this.
And that's AD based, right?
That's AD
That's
based.
your AD users, AD groups.
Yes. Okay, so for the actual users that need to consume this via this app navigation on the left-hand side, if you click on that, let me go get apps. And that's the app that I just did. Get it now. This.
This is what happens. We do a live demo. There's always something.
But
Okay.
anyway,
That's where you would access it.
yes, let me just check. I think in my backup workspace might have a app published. I'll just have to go to confirm. No, it's not published. But anyway, so that's the last step that you take, just to expose your actual report to the user so that they do not have direct access to the workspace for security reasons.
Yes.
Yes.
Nice. Thank you very much, Donald. Is that the end of the physical demo on our BI side?
That is the end of the physical demo. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you very much for that, Donald. Really appreciate that. It was I find it quite insightful. If there's any questions that you guys have, please post it in the chat, as I mentioned earlier. Donald and myself will be fielding those questions. Donald, don't you want to just put up that slide that shows the TrueNorth group contact details? Doesn't seem like anybody wants to pose any questions today. Please remember, we will be hosting this on our YouTube, so you guys can go and check it out there. Thanks very much, everybody.